Hey folks, this is Ben from Road to VR here at GDC 2016, and I'm chatting with Marty O'Donnell, who many of you will probably recognize as the composer of the Halo series, among many other works, but you have something entirely new that you're working on. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. Well, I'm with a new game company called Highwire Games, and we're working on a VR game for PSVR called Golem. And also, one of the things I'm doing is I'm doing a musical prequel to Golem. So it's a standalone listening experience. It's an album made of music that's going to tell you the story and the backstory and the magic and the mystery of Golem and the world of Golem. And you'll be able to get the album and you'll be able to listen to the music, and then you're going to be ready to play our game.
Is there going to be any tie-in beyond just this music is going to be maybe similar to the music we find in Golem, or will there be something, anything a little more deeper?
That's a good question. One of the problems, of course, is I'm still writing it as we speak. I think there will be, because it's a standalone listening experience, it'll be more based on composition that I'm just going to go with it. Like wherever the music takes me and whatever story I'm sort of telling musically, I'll go with. But what's happened in the past for me is just about any music that I've written that tells a decent story, there's usually some other story that I could tell with that music in the game. So I have a feeling that a majority of the music will be also repurposed, or themes from the album will be in the game itself. So there you
Great.
go.
And so of course you're doing a lot of the the composition, the music for the game itself.
Yeah.
But you've also historically been involved in the design of games themselves, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your role in Golem?
Yeah, it's a small company. It's made up of like 10 former AAA studio talented people, artists, and one designer, basically, Jamie Griesmer, who I've known since Chicago days back in 1998, 99, working on Myth. And he and I also worked on the Halo series for years. So it's a really great small independent studio, except we have AAA sensibilities. We've all come from AAA titles, and we feel like that's the best. We feel like we have a really good team to attack VR, because VR needs to have people who know how to make games, know how to make good game experiences, and perhaps solve some new technical problems and issues that no one's solved yet. So yeah. And by the way, I was going to say, it's like, I'm glad you think that I've been involved with design, because most people think, oh, he's that music guy.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of design sort of, it's just like when I work with designers, they say, well, I don't know anything about music, but I know what I like. That's the way I am about design. I'm not actually a designer, but I play one on TV. But I've always been very involved in, saying what works or doesn't work, or how I feel the AI needs to be improved, or a level could be improved. Sometimes people listen to me, sometimes they don't. But Jamie and I have always worked well together, and I think he appreciates some of my design sensibilities, and I see some of that stuff get incorporated. I'm also of an age where things like simulation sickness is something that's a real thing for me, and so I'm a great test subject. So I'm not a 14-year-old kid who could just do anything and go on every roller coaster in the world. So trust me, I'm not the demographic. But at least I'm someone who can say, hey, I feel like the acceleration is a little too extreme here, or the turning could be toned down a little bit, or whatever. And Jamie takes that into consideration.
And then, as far as the music goes, how do you go about constructing music for a game like this? It's brand new IP,
Right.
and you're doing the prequel to. What is your approach to something like this, especially something it's brand new tech also?
Yeah. Well, my approach to music is almost always the same. I believe music is a direct line to your emotions. And so if there's a story-based game, that means there's a story and there's an emotional journey that we want players to go on. And there's no better way to enhance that emotional journey than music. So I'm always looking for, who are the characters, what is the world, what are the feelings we want to evoke, and what kind of stories are we trying to tell emotionally. So I don't think it's any different for VR than any other story-based game. And so I have that same approach. But the sound design side of things is really interesting, because with VR, we have the technology to actually know where the player's ears are. We know exactly in physical space exactly where your ears are, which means we can put sound in very specific locations for your ears, and it really brings the world to life.
Yeah. And so have you been learning, new ways to do sound design to utilize that fact?
Well, it's interesting. There's a 3D thing that works with headphones called HRTF, and we had HRTF on the Xbox One, the original Xbox, not the Xbox.
Yeah.
I call it the Xbox One because I was there. That's what it was called at the time. But it didn't really necessarily have a place because, number one, not everybody would be using headphones. You also had Dolby surround sound that came out of the speakers, which I loved, which was great. But now that we actually know where your ears are, and you put headphones on when you're playing, especially a VR game, the HRTF technology has really come of age. It has a real reason for being, to the same extent that I think the camera for the PlayStation and the Move control. Yeah. It's almost like, forgive me, Sony, for saying this, but it's almost like it was a little early, but it's technology that had a reason for being, and now has a real reason for being with VR.
Yeah. I think those people who made the investment, in the Move, for instance, are going to be excited that they already have a component that's going to be used for PSVR.
As a matter of fact, I think you can go out and buy used Move controllers all
Invest
over the
in
place.
Move. Invest in Move.
They're going to become rare, I think. Yeah, because we love the Move. It works great. Yeah.
And why VR? I mean, you are a game industry veteran. This is brand new technology. Some would say unproven. And what hooked you on this idea that that it would be a good business idea to go after a new VR game?
Okay, well, there were two questions in there. It's like, why do I do what I do? And then you hinted in there that it was some sort of good business reason. We don't do things for good business reasons. At least guys like me and Jamie and Jared, our third partner. I had a company that did film and television scores and commercials for years, and there was this little company that was doing cool little games called Bungie, and eventually that turned into Halo, and eventually that turned into a Xbox launch title, and I enjoyed taking the risk on that. Because I like new technology, I like doing new things, and I sort of like doing risky things. If you're first in, you have some influence and control over the technology and even the aesthetics of how you design things. Nobody had really played a first-person shooter with two thumbsticks on a platform or a console before, and that was unknown territory, and we did pretty well. So, we were sitting around like, what's the new cool thing that's risky, but maybe will pay off big, pay off aesthetically, give us personal satisfaction for conquering a new mountain, and perhaps business success too.
And VR was that thing.
And VR was that thing, yeah.
And how long have you been in development now? And you said you're about 10 people?
Yeah, we have 10 people. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot bigger, at least on this first go-round. And frankly, we've all been at big studios before, and we kind of like the idea of not growing that even close to that big. But we've been working on it. We've been working on this particular title for about a year, but we started off doing prototype stuff for the first 6 months with Sony, and we got to a point where, hey, we've done a bunch of different demos, a bunch of different techniques and tech demos, and we all decided this was an interesting way to go. So we concentrated on it about a year ago, brought it to GDC, showed it to the Sony third-party guys, and they were excited about it, so we went ahead with it.
Great. And so with a team size that you want to keep small for now, what does that mean in terms of how much game people are going to get?
Right. Well, we're shooting for a 5 to 6 hour long game. It's going to be still story driven and character driven as far as, it's going to feel like a game. It's not going to feel like a demo or a prototype or something just to show the technology. We want it to be something that really plays and feels like a real game. But of course, we don't have 600 people, and we're not trying to make something that lasts, for 10 years at this point. So I think we're going to just do the best we can and make this great game, and hopefully there will be more games where that came from. Perhaps it'll be DLC or sequels or who knows what.
Yeah.
But it's a self-contained standalone game.
Excellent. Well, we've got an interesting game to look forward to, and hopefully a great soundtrack and a soundtrack prequel. So if people are interested, that is going to be there on Kickstarter. And when's the game going to come out?
The game's coming out this year.
Great.
So we might not be day and date of the launch, but we'll be within the holiday period, this 2016.
Excellent. Good luck with it. Thank you for chatting with me, Marty.
Thanks for having me. All right.